Hello again. So this is a video that is for all of the students here in N703. This talks about the difference between a primary and a secondary source. You're probably asking, why is this even relevant to me? Well, if you look at the syllabus or you look at the requirements for each assignment, so there's assignment descriptions on the syllabi that you'll see. You will be required in your papers to give me at least one primary source. Okay, the more primary sources you have, the better, but at least one. Okay, and I do ask that you be looking for your primary sources ahead of time. Don't save your paper until the night before it's due, because a lot of primary sources have to be requested by interlibrary loan. What does that mean? Some of the sources at the WSU library are not immediately available. They have to be requested, and then the library will get it to you electronically. Or you may find that you need a primary source and one of your fellow students have already checked out the book. Okay, so it's really important that you understand what a primary source is and that they can be difficult to find. Okay, so starting off here, what is a primary source? Well, a primary source is the original document, speech, or items created at the time that you're studying. So if you're studying a certain theorist, it would be something that the theorist has said, something that the theorist has written, whether it be like an autobiography that they wrote themselves. Okay. A secondary source is when someone else who is not the person you're researching or is not the author of the theory you're interested in learning more about produces the work. Okay, most of our sources are all secondary sources. Primary, short and sweet, straight from the horse's mouth. Okay, so first-hand testimony or direct evidence related to a topic. So it's created by witnesses or someone as a recorder. They experience the events as they occurred. Okay, so what does that mean? So let's say you want to provide information on a specific theorist, but you also want to introduce how that theory was applied. Okay, so a primary source for a specific theorist usually is the theorist, but if you find someone who firsthand listened to their speech or saw them use this theory in practice for the first time, that would be an example of somebody that has firsthand testimony to the effects of this theory or the effects of this theorist's work. Okay, so that would be a primary source. All right. Examples of a primary source. You have autobiographies, diaries, email, interviews, letters, news, film footage, official records, photograph, raw research data, and speeches. One of the things that was left out here in this slide that I'm reading off of here is works that were authored by the theorist. So a lot of these theorists did write really scholarly work related to their theory, how it was applied, how you can use it, how it was helpful. Okay, so be sure you're looking the theorist up as an author, okay, not just looking up the theorist as a title. Okay, so and the WSU library can help you with your searching methods that you use, so just be sure that you're using the theorist as an author to find a primary source. Okay. There's art, films, music, but for the purpose of this course, it's going to be a speech, perhaps an interview, and a scholarly work or a book that they have written. Okay. An example of a primary source would be the Diary of Anne Frank. That is a primary source. Some questions to ask: who created the primary source? When was it created? And what was happening during the time period? And who was listening to it when they did eventually publish this or make it public? So a secondary source is an account or an interpretation of events. So you may read multiple sources. This is a good example would be you're watching the news and you're watching CNN and you're watching Fox, and they both somehow report the same information very, very differently. It's because their interpretations of the events are different, and so it's a secondary source, okay? An encyclopedia would be a secondary source. A journal, a magazine, or a newspaper article about certain events or about certain people, but not authored by the person in which experienced it. That's a secondary source. Your textbooks for this course are secondary sources. So you'll notice when you're looking up works by your theorists, you will see that they're authored by them. So for example, Orum's self-care deficit theory, you'll find books that were authored by Dr. Orum. That is a primary source. You can use that if it's applicable to what you're talking about. So when you do your papers, you're giving background on the theorist. So that might be something in an autobiography if you're using that as your primary source reference or citation. If you can't find anything like that was said by the actual theorist, then you might want to find a book where the theorist breaks down their work and talks about how it was applied or used or what area of nursing. And that would be a primary source also. And remember, you only need one, okay? Let's see here. So there is a possibility, and this is something that you can do if you're really running into trouble. Sometimes your secondary source cites a primary source in their journal article. So just for example, when you go on to the Wichita State Library and you search a specific journal title or journal topic, keyword, or a specific title, you'll find many articles that pop up in relation to the subject matter. At the very, very end of your journal article, you will see just a plethora of sources, okay? Look down the line, they're alphabetized, to see if you find a source that was authored by the theorist in which you're studying. Because sometimes your secondary source will cite a primary source in order to get you the information that you're looking for. So that would kind of be a sneaky way to find a primary resource, okay? And you may find yourself doing it a lot, and that's okay. I believe that's it for primary sources. Again, these can be difficult to find, so please do not assume that you can start this paper the night before and get it done in time, okay? If you have questions about a primary source, please let me know. If you're struggling to find one, I suggest you go to the library and you ask the librarian to help you, okay? I do not want any emails the night before it's due saying, Dr. Layton, I can't find a primary source. Because what I would say to you is, where were you a week ago? Because it's hard for me to help you in that short of a time period as well. Because like I said, sometimes you have to go to different libraries. I remember going to the public library at Edgemore and Central looking for my primary sources because only one library had them, okay? So this is just something I want you to be aware of, okay? You only need one per assignment, okay? I changed that. It used to be 2 or 3. So this should be making it a little bit easier for you, but still understanding what a primary source is. Please reach out if you have questions. I'm always here for you. Thanks.